This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show. And our Moonlighter for today has been on the podcast before. He is a repeat Moonlighter. He was on the podcast back in 2018, where he spent every day of that year playing catch with someone different. And we had him on the podcast. I actually played catch with him throughout that year. He stopped by the Moonlight Graham Show studio actually on his way back from the Field of Dreams. I had a chance to play catch with him that very next day. We did a podcast and we promised him that if he ever wrote a book about playing catch every day for a year, we'd have him on the podcast again. And sure enough, the book, A Year of Playing Catch, What a Simple Daily Experiment Taught Me About Life, by our good friend Ethan Bryan, is now out and for sale, and I'm holding it in my hands right now. I'm actually mentioned in the book on page 150. It was a slight thrill for me to be in the book, and it was fun to get caught up with Ethan Bryan to talk about what it was like, how his arm felt to play catch every day for an entire year. I just love this. I love little challenges like this that normal people take on, and then they grow into something more, they grow into something bigger, and they grow into something probably a little bit different than what the original intent was. And that's exactly what happened with Ian. And so it was great to get caught up, not only to get him on the podcast, but also to read this book. I recommend that anybody that's interested in baseball, that has a joy of playing catch, that you should pick up this book. I think it'll hit home with all of you. And if you like what we're doing here on the podcast, make sure to subscribe to the Moonlight Graham Show wherever it is that you listen to your podcasts. You can also follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Head over to our website at moonlightgrahamshow.com and pick up a Moonlight Graham shirt as well. Enjoy today's episode with Moonlighter Ethan Bryan, and go check out his book, A Year of Playing Catch. But before we get to our episode, I want to talk to you about a new partner of ours. It's called the Underdog Newsletter. So the Underdog Newsletter is an email newsletter that you can sign up for online. Here's what it is. It's a bite-sized rundown of the best underdog stories in sports. You guys know we're all about the underdogs here on the Moonlight Graham Show. And what these guys do, they sift through thousands of stories each and every week and handpick the best underdog stories and deliver them into your email inbox each and every week. They deliver it the same time the Moonlight Graham Show comes out every Tuesday morning. And these guys over at the Underdog Newsletter, they celebrate the long shots, the rejects, the misfits, beating the odds, and overcoming adversity. I don't know if there's a better email subscription list that you can sign up for than the Underdog Newsletter. Here's how you find them. You head over to www.jokermag.com/newsletter, or to make it even easier, all you have to do is type in Underdog Newsletter into Google, sign up for the Underdog Newsletter. It'll come into your inbox every Tuesday morning, and let them know the Moonlight Graham Show sent you. I guarantee that you'll enjoy this Underdog Newsletter each and every week. Check them out, guys. Ethan Bryan, the author of A Year of Playing Catch, What a Simple Daily Experiment Taught Me About Life. Ethan, you are a two-time Moonlighter on. Welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show.
It is my honor to be back. I'm thrilled to come back. I've been meaning to contact you. I need to get a new shirt. I have worn through the one I got the last time I visited with you.
All right. Well, we got to get you a new shirt. I'll make sure I'm writing that down right now. We'll get a new shirt. We'll get you our new design too. You had our old design, so we'll get you an updated one that's going to be Royals blue for you.
That's exactly what I need. Yes, I would love that.
So Ethan, going back to your book, you were in studio 2 years ago while you were traveling, mainly throughout the Midwest, playing catch with somebody every day. You and I caught up, I think, on day 220 or 221, right in there. So it was almost exactly 2 years ago, I think, is when we first connected. What initially prompted you to play catch with somebody every day of 2018?
Well, it's so weird because it was not planned. It really was just a grassroots thing, and it was inspired by my daughters. My youngest gave me a gift for Christmas that just said, "Dad, want to play catch?" and I thought it was like a gift certificate of sorts that I could ask her to play catch with me, and she'd say yes. And so we did. On New Year's Day, I played catch with both of my daughters on January 1st, 2018, and it was so cold because no one plays catch no one in their right mind plays catch in single-digit temperatures, and every throw and every catch kind of stung. I later learned about 2/3 of the way through the year that it was just a gift. It was just supposed to be art that she had made for me. It was never intended to be a gift certificate, which is just hilarious. But that night at the dinner table, we were sitting down, and they literally just looked at me and said, "Dad, what would happen if you played catch every single day?" And I was like, "Oh, I'd need surgery." And they're like, "Well, you should try it." And I had just a couple years prior, I'd had reconstructive ankle surgery and had no desire to go under the knife. And so, day 2, our family was going to go see a movie. And like, "Dad, come on, we'll stop on the way to the movie and you can play catch." And I was like, "Okay." And they really were the ones that prompted me and encouraged me into it. And I am ridiculously grateful to them for helping spur on what became one of the best years of my life.
Were your 2 daughters your most common catch partners throughout that year?
They, yes, by far. They would accompany me and sometimes take pictures, and most often, the book has an official roster. That's one of the longest appendices ever in a book. But they would warm me up before I would meet with someone. The longer the year went, the longer it took for my arm to get loose. And they were patient and understanding. And so if I was meeting someone after school, we'd get there as fast as we can, and they'd step out and just go with me until long enough until the partner showed up, and I was usually pretty good to go by then. But they were both so supportive and encouraging throughout the whole endeavor.
Throughout that endeavor, how long did it take you to determine you were going to write a book about this?
Well, when the year started, I was actually working on two completely different books, and it was just kind of a whim thing where I started blogging. I blogged every day about who I was playing catch with, which was just weird. I honestly don't know why I even started that. But it was about day 70 or so. I got a text from Robert Benson. He's really been mentoring me for the last decade on growing as a writer, on the work and the rhythms of it. And he said, "You're writing a book, my friend." I was like, "Well, actually, I'm writing 2 right now, And he's like, "No, this playing catch, this is a book." And I literally had not given it a thought. And so that was when it first was kind of, the seed was planted. But then he said, "Now you just got to finish the year." And I was through 70 days. I was like, that just seems so far away right now. To think of actually completing it for a year. And when December came around, and start that excitement, and I start to be really protective of my arm and doing stretches and being very obsessive with it. And then the whole project actually completes, and I made it, and there's no injuries, and there's all these wonderful stories. That's when January 2019, I was passionate about collecting it, shaping the story into a book.
The day before you and I played catch, you were at the Field of Dreams. So you and your dad at that time were doing a lot of travel. How hard was the scheduling to do, 365 days of catch? I got to imagine, just laying out, basically in my world, I'm in sales, so laying out a meeting every day for, 12 months is really, really hard.
Yes, it was. And that's one of the most important things I learned throughout the year was just the importance of being flexible, of adapting to what happens. Right before we left for that trip, so Field of Dreams was day 206. And so we were we left on 2:04, somewhere around there, and went to watch a Royals game, stay the night in Kansas City, connect with a couple broadcasters, Joel Goldberg, who does the pregame, postgame show, and then Nate Bucati, who used to do it, and then he now works for Sporting KC calling soccer games. And so the day that we left Springfield to head north, I got a message that one of my planned catch partners in Kansas City had canceled. He said, "I am so sorry. Is there anyone else you can find?" And I was like, well, and I actually sent an email to Nate and said, "Hey, you don't know me. This is what I'm doing. My partner just canceled. Is there any way on this date that you'd be willing to meet?" He said, "Well, in the morning I'm on the radio." I said, I can wait till after your show, whatever's most convenient. We actually played catch on the property of the radio grounds, just on the median there. And he was so flexible and so nice. But that happened so many times.
Was that the closest you came to missing a day?
No, early on. I actually had my family had a scheduled trip to Kansas City. It was probably within the first 2 months, and somebody canceled. And so I told the place that the friends that we were staying with, I said, "Hey, you're going to be my catch partner when we get in." Well, delays and everything. And so he and I actually played catch 10 o'clock at night in a skate park that had the manual lights that you could turn on, lights on a timer.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was so cold, and it became, that one was so much fun. We were running up and down the quarter pipes and the half pipes, pretending like we're running up walls and everything, making catches. And,
yeah, like Bo Jackson.
The only problem, exactly. The only problem was if you missed it and the ball hits the concrete, man, it's coming back to you fast. So we caught everything.
Did you get better at baseball throughout the year?
Yes. And my arm is better now than it was then. What was so weird is I would play catch, 4 or 5 times a year. But then you're looking at throwing a ball 40 feet. You're not putting anything behind it. You're just having fun with it. Well, then you start connecting with people like yourself who can throw the ball at mid-80s and throw it hard and then with movement. And they're like, "Well, let's see what you got." And I was like, "Well, my arm's got nothing. there's nothing left in the tank." And then, I connected with former players, former people who played professionally in the minors. And I said, "Well, do this kind of stretch, do this kind of whatever. You're opening up early or your arm's over here." And just stuff that, 30 years ago was second nature. I was like, "Oh, yeah. This is how you have to do it, and this is how you have to do it, and you need your wrist in this kind of position." And so by the time you and I connected in July, things were starting to come around. Arm was getting in shape, and your arm circle and staying behind the ball, all that kind of stuff was starting to be second nature. But then last year, I got an opportunity to play in a local wood bat league, and there's not a chance I would have even tried out had I not spent a year trying to get my arm in shape.
How's the league going?
We had our scrimmage day yesterday, just to walk through the details of what it's going to look like to play in a league underneath with COVID certainty, and we have to wear masks in dugouts. We have to have temperature checks when we come in. And so we had a scrimmage day just to run through all the details. And I had a single to right field, solid single off of a curveball, stayed back, drove it to right.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, so really good about that. Of course, okay, in full, in my first at bat, the guy who's pitching was a teammate from last year, and he throws the ball so hard, and he hit the player before me. And I was like,
never a good
I
thing.
don't want to be. No. And I felt just like John Kruk facing Randy Johnson. And so the first pitch I swung at was at my eyes. And I just laughed. I said, well, that was stupid. I did put a good swing on a second pitch and fouled it straight back. And I was like, that was the one I just missed. and then he threw a stupid slider that I think ended at my ankles, and I've only probably missed about 2 or 3 feet. So I struck out, and I went back to the dugout laughing. I said, well, that was the most worthless at bat ever. But then I singled to right my second at bat. I went first to third on a gap shot double, and there was runners on second and third, 1 out, and I looked to the third base coach, and I said, "You want me to go on contact?" He said, "Definitely not. 1 out, just play here." Well, literally the next pitch, batter hits a dribbler, just 2 soft hops between pitcher and first base, and so I take a couple hard steps and then just stop and turn around to the bag, only to see that the guy that was on second base is now like 5 feet from third. I'm like, oh no. And so I just turned and sprinted towards home, which caught me by surprise, caught everyone by surprise. They throw it to the plate, ball bounces into my butt, I'm safe on the slide. And I was like, hey, I scored on a mad dash. Thank you very much, Cosmo. I know how that feels.
Nice.
So, yeah, we'll try out for next Sunday, and then league starts in September, and fingers crossed I'll make the cut.
I love the fact that year of catch kind of reconnected you with the game of baseball. Not only, through all the personal connections that you were able to have throughout that year, but it also, sparked your love of the game. A lot of times as guys get older, they only have maybe slow pitch softball or coaching their kids' teams, things like that to do. But, you're back playing in a wooden bat league. I think that's pretty awesome.
Oh, it is. And just the talent on the field that I'm playing with, I mean, I am so humbled to see myself on their team. It is a blast being out there, and we're having fun, and so I still get so nervous for it. I love it.
Yeah, that means your body's ready, man. It's a fun feeling. It's a fun feeling.
It is. It's a blast.
So, Ethan, throughout your year, who was the one guy that you had on your list that you would have loved to play catch with that you were unable to connect with?
Probably anyone who currently plays for the Royals, whether it would be, Alex Gordon, Whit Merrifield, Salvador Perez, just any current. And I was hesitant throughout the year to actually contact and reach out to them because I didn't want to be that guy who's playing catch and all of a sudden they get injured because of something I did. So it was late in the year before I earnestly started reaching out to them. But now I'm confident enough in my arm and everything that if we play catch, and they happen to get injured, it would just be one of those sweet things of life. It wouldn't be the direct responsibility. So any of this, Bo Jackson, I wanted to play catch with him so bad.
Who doesn't?
He would be one. Jenny Finch. I would love to connect with Jenny Finch.
The softball player, Jenny Finch.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would be cool.
I want to hear her story of what it was like to strike out Albert Pujols.
One thing I've always wondered about, Ethan, with writers is writer's block. You see that a lot of times with like songwriters, and I've heard, other authors talk about writer's block, but because you are giving yourself so much new material each and every day with the book, did you ever encounter writer's block while you're putting together a year of playing catch?
I did. I had contacted an agent, and he said he would be willing to represent me, to send him a manuscript. And so I tried to figure out, well, how do I tell this story? And so my first thought was to take it on a month-by-month basis and feature just, highlights from the month, or maybe there was a general theme or whatever. And so I put together probably 2/3 of a book and sent it out to a couple different people, and they were very honest, and they're like, this really isn't that good. This is kind of boring. I was like, oh, well, that's not what I want to, that's not how I want to remember this year. And so I deleted all of it. I didn't want any of that hanging on. I reached out to my dad. I said, Dad, I can't figure out how to structure this book. Do you have any points of advice, anything that really sticks out? And I gave him a couple days, and he responded, and he was like, well, you need to think about what really captured you, what really stuck out in your imagination. And it was just something he said in his email. I can't even remember the exact phrase that really sparked it. And just that decision my family made to take that first trip through the Midwest was really a turning point on the whole year. And so I decided to use those 10 days, that the 2 weeks that surrounded those 10 days, as a general structure for the book, and then pull in accompanying stories. And I sent that to the agent. I said, this feels true to the whole experience, because you get that sense of, you know, every day there was something, but then how it connected so many different people. And he wrote back and said, this is the story you need to write. And all it came together so fast.
That's
It was
cool.
it was a blast to write it.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that. Like, I've never had to sit down and write 150, 200 pages. How long does that actually take?
It usually takes a long time. I bet I was done with the bare bones of the book in 3 weeks.
No kidding.
Because I could not stop. And I mean, I was obsessing over it. And then I went back and started adding and putting the muscle into it and making the connections. And then once I got signed to a contract, oh goodness, we probably did 2, 3, 4 more rewrites through the edits, until just, you know, Brian and Andy and Mark, just all these people who invested so much time into the text and said, you know, I don't understand this part, and then it made me really wrestle with the words. I'm so humbled and so grateful for those who really helped me tell the best story possible.
So, Ethan, I know you've been all over, you know, the Midwest especially. You're a big-time baseball fan. What's one baseball stadium that you have not been to that's still on your list?
Boston.
Oh, yeah. You got to get to Fenway.
And this is kind of a regret. Back in January, February, I actually got connected to someone who works in the front office. And I was telling them about the book and just about the whole project and everything. I said, you know, would it be possible to meet someone who lives up in the area and play catch in front of the Green Monster? That's really what I want, is to have the monster serve as a witness for a game of catch. And, you know, it took them a couple days, and they said, we're on board. We'd love to see this happen. And so I had permission to go to Boston in September of 2020 and play catch in left field. And that, and with everything else that happened, we finally decided, you know, back in July or whatever, that we need to hold off. And I was like, I completely understand. That's the smart thing to do. That's the wise thing to do. And the 10-year-old inside of me was like, oh, it was so close.
You got to find a way to get that back on your calendar at some point. When all this is, you know, back to normal, got to get that one back.
Absolutely.
Ethan, what's the best sports moment you've ever witnessed?
Oh, in person?
In person.
I saw a Bo Jackson homer in person. That was pretty impressive. Back when I was a sophomore in high school. Wow, that's a great question. Okay, I was in high school and driving by a local park, which it used to be the home field for Southwest Missouri State Bears, now Missouri State University, who, if you'll research them, their head coach is one of the winningest head coaches in NCAA history. And I saw a baseball field lights on, and it was just summer night. I knew they weren't playing. Couldn't imagine who was there. My youngest cousin was with me. I said, hey, you want to go see a baseball game? He said, sure. So we drive over, and it turns out that it was just some kind of Parks Board men's league playing ball. I never heard anything about this. They played 7-inning games, and we're watching there, and there's one team that uniforms match. Everyone has tall socks. I mean, they look pro. And then the other team is everyone has their own shirt, own hat, whatever. And I saw the guys pitch a 7-inning perfect game with 20 outs were recorded by strikeouts, and one person grounded out to second.
Who was this guy?
I have no idea.
Oh, wow.
Now, because in the full part of the story, the pitcher who struck out 20 of the 21 he faced, his dad was there and was a belligerent drunk cheering against him. And so he is standing behind home plate just shouting, "What's wrong with you guys? Why can't you hit him? He's my son. He's not that good. He's horrible." And he's saying, "Are you scared of it?" And just yelling at him. And why the ump didn't kick him out or something didn't happen amazes me. But as the innings went on, he continued to get louder and louder and just verbally abusive. And it was probably about had to be the 6th or 7th inning. He just said, "Are you scared?" And my cousin, bless his heart, who had probably been 10 or 11 at the time, just yelled back right at him and said, "Yeah, are you scared?" I was like, "Oh, no, we don't talk like that right now. We're going to be really quiet." I said, no. And the man turned around and looked at us, and we did stay to the end of the game. We left promptly after.
Wow, that's an interesting story right there. Ethan, what's your favorite book?
That's a mean question. All of them. The one that just came to mind, Joe Posnanski's Soul of Baseball, when he and Buck O'Neill travel all across America talking about the Negro Leagues. That one's incredible, and it will bring you such joy, and it will break your heart. There's so many good books. Donald Miller wrote 1,000,000 Miles in 1,000 Years, talking about why story is such a huge influence on our imagination. So there's two off the top of my head.
I like that. So I know you spent a lot of time on the road during 2018 while you were doing a year of playing catch. I got to imagine you had some standard fast food orders. What's your go-to fast food order when you're on the road?
We usually do a pretty good job of trying to eat locally, eating places. I had my first made right when I was right on the way to see you, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I've tried to recreate the meal at home and can't come close to it at all. And my daughter's like, "Hey, yeah, this is pretty good." I was like, "No, you don't understand. It was great. It was so good." So we usually try to eat locally whenever we travel.
Okay, so not a fast food guy. Well, final question here then, Ethan, is what's next? You know, you got this book coming out now. Obviously, you have probably a press tour, and you're releasing this. But what's the next book or what's the next adventure you're on?
I wrote a book. It's called The Scavenger Hunt, and it's just a short story, and it's about a woman whose father dies, and he spent the last year of his life to follow. And it is just pure fiction. There's no truth to it whatsoever, other than traveling and seeing beautiful parts of the country and the most amazing people in the hidden gems and the small places and the off the highway places. And it's a short book. It's 30,000 words, which would be half the size, a third of the size of you're playing catch. And it is another one of those that just I obsessively wrote in 3 weeks, and I couldn't stop writing. And I have no idea what to do with it. I mean, no one wants books that short, but it was so much fun. Also, what's next is, getting back on the field. I'm not done playing catch. I want to play catch for the next 30 years and keep meeting people and sharing their stories. I want to be a catch playing ambassador for the game of baseball, and yeah, get kids back into the game. That joy. Right, I'm going to pause. At the probably about June or so, I played catch with a kid who was 14. His name was Isaiah, and he had a glove that was a few years old, and the padding was worn, and he asked if we could swap gloves, and I said sure, and he had the courageous audacity to ask. He said, "Hey, can I have your glove?" I mean, who asks that kind of question, right? And I said, "Tell you what, I'll make a deal with you. Let me use it for the rest of this year, and come December, it's yours." And when I got to give that, I gave him his glove shortly after his 15th birthday. And when I got to give him that glove, you know, there's such joy in his eyes, and I want to be able to do that, just to give kids gloves and say, "All right, now go play." I had the wonderful delight. My oldest daughter, who's now in college, who actually at Missouri State. You know what I'd really like? I'd really like my own glove, so I don't have to borrow one of yours whenever I want to go play catch or play with people. I was like, oh man, my daughter wants a glove. I got to get a glove for my daughter. And so I started looking and picking around, trying to think, all right, what do I want to get her? And I'm like, I'm so excited about that.
That's cool. Well, yeah, I love this book, A Year of Playing Catch. It comes out September 8th, 2020. How can people find it, and how can people find you, Ethan?
It is literally anywhere books are sold. What I've been saying, especially during COVID, what would be most important is to buy it from your favorite local bookstore, and that way you're doing good work there in your community. If you don't have a favorite local bookstore, you can email me at hello@ethanbryan.com, and I can get a copy to you immediately, and that's just the easiest way to get in touch with me, either email or it's on my website.
Cool. Well, Ethan, thank you so much for coming on the Moonlight Graham Show again. We owe you a shirt, so I'll get you a new shirt sent out to you, but it's been a lot of fun catching up, and best of luck with the book release.
Well, I'm hoping to come to your neck of the woods next year when they get that MLB game back at the Field of Dreams. I was wanting to surprise you this year, and everything happened. So know that you are on my radar. Maybe we can play catch again and sign some books and have some fun in your community.
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks once again to listening to today's episode of the Moonlight Graham Show. And even though I do most of the interviews here on the podcast, there is a ton of work that happens behind the scenes that you guys don't see that make each episode possible. So I got to give a shout out to the Moonlight Graham Show team. First of all, Brian Sandvig, our producer. Brian does all of the post-production work, and in real life, he's not just a podcast producer, he's also a real estate agent. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home down in the Kansas or Missouri areas, give Brian Sandvig a call. Next guy on that list is Brendan Gargano. Brendan does all of our design and artwork here on the podcast. He's one of the most talented artists I've ever met, and I love all of his work. If you need any help on the design side with logos or anything like that, give Brendan Gargano a call. The next guy on that list is Andy Flattery, my older brother. Andy, of course, has done some of the interviews here on the podcast. He also is a certified financial planner. He owns a business called Simple Wealth Planning. If you need any help in that area, check Andy Flattery out. And then, of course, the trusty co-host Tom Griffin and my younger brother Neil Flattery. Those guys are just busy being husbands, being fathers, they're family men, but also they do a ton of work here on the show. So thanks again for listening. We really appreciate you guys subscribing and supporting the Moonlight Graham Show.